Alright, so the kitchen is a big job, so you want to just do one side at a time. Otherwise, you're going to have stuff all over the place. So I'm going to start here, and the first thing I'm going to do is empty out all the food products here, and I'm going to stack it over here so they're out of the way. So next, I'll take out all the pots and pans, and the stuff that you cook with tends to be a little bit more greasy. So I would recommend putting all that together into one container, and then putting things like your plates, your utensils, and Tupperware in another, so you do not get any additional grease on it, because when you use bleach, all the grease is going to come off of your pots and pans. And the only thing I would recommend not putting into these containers are sharp things like knives. So you want to separate the knives and sharp objects so you don't cut yourself when you go to take everything out. So like I said, you want to bleach the dishes, the pots and the pans. You could either do that in the kitchen, or you could bring the bins out of your way. I got them downstairs here in the basement. And when you use bleach to decontaminate something, you want to use 3 cups of bleach for each bin, for a regular size bin like these. That's why I say it's pretty good to get the larger ones. I found this larger plastic storage bin at Home Depot, and if you use something like that, I would say more like 5 cups of bleach. But you can get a lot more stuff in a container like that. You want to make sure that you have enough space so that everything is submerged underneath the water and bleach, and you fill it up to the top so everything is submerged here. Then stuff like the toaster, the blender, and the microwave, I'm going to set over here so that I can spray it down with the CLR solution. So try to replace all of this as soon as possible. If you do not have a lot of money, you might want to wipe off the outside of stuff like this and just replace it whenever it's possible. But as far as the bags go that you will use to store things in that are decontaminated, it's best to get rid of these bags and get new ones at the store. We all have a drawer or two like this in the kitchen, filled with numerous odds and ends. So what you want to do is separate everything into a bin that you could submerge in bleach and water. So stuff like this you cannot soak, it's going to ruin it. You got tape, flashlight, locks. I'm kind of nervous to soak those. I don't want those to get rusted on the inside. A calculator, lighters, a remote, glue. So all of this I'm going to put into here, and I'm going to spray it down with the CLR. Meanwhile, stuff like this can be submerged in water. I got scissors, screwdriver, dice, nails and hardware. These are pads for removing furniture that could go in there. Clips, tray, ruler. These are things for picture frames in the wall. The batteries will have to be sprayed down, so I'll put those in here. I might want to keep these separate so I don't have to go crazy fishing them all out, but to make things real easy, this will go in here. Stuff like paper I will throw out. There's more hardware here. And if you don't put too much water in there, they kind of stay together in there, if that makes things easier. Now for all of this cardboard you should get rid of. So all these things should be opened up and the cardboard thrown away. So these are pins. I'll have to spray those down, but this cardboard gets thrown away. All of this stuff will need to be taken out of its package and the cardboard thrown away. After you soak that in the bleach and water for 24 hours, you could use plastic bags to rebag it, because all of this needs to be thrown out. So it is important to always get new Ziploc bags that you know have not been contaminated with the mold. If you have some that are sealed, I think those will be okay as long as you wipe the outside down first. But it's best to get new bags if everything's been open. You don't want to use bags that have been exposed to the mold because you're going to use it to bag up all your stuff after you get done decontaminating it. And so everything needs to be submerged in the water. When you fill the whole thing up with water, you'll need about 3 cups of bleach. I will probably use either 1 or 2 cups of bleach for all that. And that will stay like that for 24 hours. So the stuff that you cannot submerge in the bleach and water, you're going to spray down with the CLR solution. It's easy to put it on a towel or a drop cloth and then let it dry. And then later, like everything else, you'll spray it down again and then wipe it off with a towel. So I put the food across the room so it will not be in the way. I got the stuff that I sprayed down with the CLR in the middle. And it's time to spray down the empty cabinets here, starting with the top and spraying down. I am also going to spray the surrounding walls on that side of the kitchen too, while I'm at it. So you want to spray every side to the cabinet. The outside of the cabinet, the inside of the door. You can't neglect to do the top of the cabinet where the ceiling is, behind every piece of wood there. You want to make sure everything is coated with the ammonia solution. I'm going to be using the ammonia solution because most of this is wood. You don't want to neglect any part of the cabinet. Behind the pieces of wood that make up the frame of the cabinet, you want to spray every part down. And then you'll let that sit until it's almost dry. Next, I'm going to take out the drawers, and I've laid out a tarp, and that will catch the majority of the excess ammonia solution that will be dripping down onto the floor. Same with everything else. Every side of the drawer must be sprayed down with the ammonia solution. And once again, just make sure to spray every side of the wooden frame here where the drawers fit in. Once everything has begun to dry, you could then begin to spray and wipe down the cabinets, starting at the starting point. So you will spray down a small section, and then you will wipe that section off, doing a little bit at a time. Later on, you'll have to remove the handles, but for now you can just carefully spray and wipe them down. And once again, when the towel gets saturated, just put it into a bucket so that you could throw it in a bin with ammonia. And wherever there are corners, you could adjust the nozzle so that it has a stream and really try to get the solution into the corners and the grooves of the cabinet. You could see a little bit of light shining through up here. Make sure to get the solution all through there. Once you've sprayed and wiped down the drawers and everything has begun to dry, you could then begin to spray everything down with the CLR solution and do a thorough job cleaning that with the towel. And then put it back in the drawer. And then I will spray down the blender, the toaster, the microwave with the CLR solution and do a thorough job cleaning that with the towel. I'm going to take a knife and wrap a towel around it so I can get into the grooves of this toaster. What you will see is there are a lot of vents in the microwave oven. Just make sure that you spray some of the solution into the vents and then clean it off with a towel wrapped around a knife. I think it'll be okay as long as you let it dry before attempting to plug it in and turn it on. And last, I'm taking everything out of the bucket where we had the bleach and water, and you can just set those things on a towel to dry. So now we're going to go back and put the groceries away. It's going to be the same process for everything. First, you are going to spray them with the ammonia solution, and then you're going to go back and spray and then wipe them off before letting them dry and then putting them back into the cabinet. If you have any food products that are open, I recommend that you throw those out. So after I decontaminated the whole house, I went back and detailed some things. For example, I removed all the handles off the cabinets and I soaked them in bleach and water for 24 hours. The next day, the bucket was filled with rust. There was so much. The rust looked like sand at the bottom of a bucket. The screws looked fine before I did this. However, after soaking them for only 24 hours, they had begun to rust so much they were decomposing. So I replaced all of these with handles that I also soaked in bleach and water, and there was no change whatsoever. So if you soak anything metal and things begin to rust after a short amount of time, I would recommend that you throw them out, especially if they're brand new and not scratched in any way that would cause them to rust. What these things are made out of seems to be corrosive metals. I don't know if this is the junk that we're getting from China these days, but these corrosive metals are known to rust on their own, even when kept in a dry place. I was given these metal caps by a plumber, and after 1 year they began to rust from just sitting there on the shelf. The rust looked like it was bubbling off in places, like there was some sort of chemical reaction. As for my free weights, I soaked these weights for 1 day and rust developed on them. However, the rust formed where the paint had scratched off from changing the weights onto different bars. If you have old rusted screws and nails, I'll recommend that you get rid of them. At worst, it will cut down on the amount of corrosive metals that you will keep around your house. Or if it is an important part that you really need to keep, I'll recommend putting it into a plastic bag. So some of you may want to look into this and do some experiments on your own. So the next side of the kitchen that I decided to do was this side with the windows. And the first thing that you want to do is take down anything you have on the walls. And I'll put that into a container filled with water and bleach for 24 hours. And then I will take down all the curtains and the rods. And these are a little bit longer than a lot of storage bins. So you can put them in a bucket and turn them upside down ever so often to make sure the bleach gets to every part of it, which is why it's a good idea to look for the larger storage bins. The longest I've found is about 3.5 feet long and a little bit over 1.5 feet wide. So I'm using about 2 cups of bleach for the curtain rods here because they're hollow, and I want to make sure that all the mold is killed because they're right next to the window where you will find the most amount of mold. As for the curtains, I'm going to use ammonia on the curtains with a print. I'm going to use 2 cups of bleach on the white curtains. Once everything is taken down on that side of the room, you're going to use the ammonia solution and spray everything down. All the walls and all the wood on the window frame. You do not have to spray the actual window because you're going to use the CLR solution on the window, on the glass and the plastic window, because the CLR is best for cleaning that. So once all the walls have been sprayed down with the ammonia solution and the window frames, then you want to switch over to the CLR solution and spray down the entire window. You want to make sure you get the solution into every part of the window. You really want to spray the locks and these levers here. You want to spray the window grooves. And once all the windows are sprayed down, go back to the ammonia solution. Then you'll spray down the wall a section at a time and wipe it down with the towels to get off all remaining mold. You're going to go around the window and spray the wooden frame of the window and then wipe the wooden frame down with the towels, getting off all the remaining mold. I got the radiator covered with a tarp, so all the stuff coming off the windows will not get into the radiator. You want to spray the wooden frame on the inside of the window with the ammonia solution and wipe it down with a towel. Then we must do the same process for the windows. So you want to switch back over to the CLR solution and you spray the windows down. So you'll clean up the glass. And what helps is to get a series of smaller towels. And then you'll use the towels wrapped around a knife to get into the grooves better. And you can see the type of dirt and mold that will be hiding in the groove. Use the stream to really get the solution into the locks. And then you'll use the towels, getting off all the remaining mold. You see these things, these are like window locks that raise and lower the window, and sometimes they come off, and you can raise and lower them with a screwdriver. You can lock it or unlock it by just turning it like a screw, and you can lift it up and lock it back into place. I will go into more detail about how to clean the windows, how to take it all apart, and how all these parts function in an upcoming part to this documentary. So you want to use a towel wrapped around a knife to get into the grooves, or a screwdriver. And you could also use your finger. That will help get the inner side to it. But if the grooves are too small, use a towel wrapped around a knife or a screwdriver. The only thing you want to remember is the temperature when you're cleaning the windows. If it's freezing, the solution will ice up pretty quick. So you don't want to do this when it's close to 32 degrees. You kind of want to wait till it's about 35 or 40 degrees if you're going to open the windows and clean them. If it's that cold, I would spray the solution and then wipe it off real quick so that it won't freeze up on you, because it will freeze real quick. So make sure you keep an eye on the temperature and you do it when it's like 35 or 40 degrees. So mold is attracted to a lot of grease, and sometimes it's put there purposely. So the best thing to do is to remove the stove. You may need to get some help and just pull the oven out and then unplug it. Then you are going to use the CLR solution to clean the oven. So remove all the knobs, and you can put those in a container filled with bleach and water. Then you want to spray down every part of the oven. And that includes taking out the drawer on the bottom and making sure you spray every side to that as well. Make sure you get the CLR solution spray into every groove on the oven, and especially on the back of the oven, where you may find a lot of vents like this. Spray the solution into the vents. If you give your oven about 24 hours to dry, it should not be a problem. You also want to remove the racks to spray and clean the inside of the oven too. So put the racks into a bin filled with bleach and water. Then use the CLR solution spray to spray down the inside of the oven thoroughly. So you will want to let the oven sit there for a moment before you spray the bottom of the oven. So while that solution is working, you want to switch over to the ammonia solution to spray down your table and chairs. On this table, the sides drop down, and that collects a lot of junk in there. You want to make sure you get the solution in those areas there. If your table has leaves in it, you want to make sure you open up the table, remove the leaves, and spray the sides of the leaves and clean that whole area. Then you want to spray down your chairs. Make sure you get in between all the spokes. That's a common area where grease collects and will attract mold. If you have any pads on the bottom of the legs, get a paint scraper and scrape those off and throw them away. Then turn the table onto its side and spray the whole bottom, making sure you get the solution into every part of the table, including those hard to reach places. Change the spray to a stream and make sure you get some solution into those areas. So while the ammonia solution is working on the table and chairs, we could then return to spray and wipe down the oven with the CLR solution. Now I was running out of towels, so what you could do is take 1/2 cup of the CLR solution and mix it with a bucket of water. A bucket is about 2 gallons of water. And what you could do is use a towel and then rinse the towel off in that bucket of water and CLR. And you can reuse the towels. And sometimes that helps when you're cleaning things like ovens or fridges or something like the siding on the outside of your houses. I don't think you need to be too concerned about rinsing out the spray bottles when you're switching back and forth from ammonia to CLR. I wouldn't go out of my way to mix those two cleaning solutions, but they are so diluted that I do not think it's going to be a big deal if they happen to mix a little bit, like get on the floor together, or in bottles that you empty out to add the next solution. So I've tipped the oven on its side, so now I'm spraying down the oven again and using the towels to wipe it down thoroughly. And as far as the vents go, just get a knife, wrap it in a towel, and clean the inside of the vents the best you can. You will do the same on any groove in the stove, and you'll see the amount of grease that will be in there. So the same thing with the ammonia. You get a bucket, put in about 2 gallons of water, but add 1 cup of ammonia. And you could use that to rinse out your towels if you're running short on towels. And careful attention should be placed on the legs. You can see where these grooves are. These decorative grooves on the legs. I don't know if these are areas where mold is deliberately placed, because these areas are known to attract grease. So if you hold a towel underneath this area and spray it, you'll see all these mold particles coming off. So I'm using a knife with a towel wrapped around it, and I'm cleaning the grooves on the table leg very carefully, making sure I'm getting all the junk out of there. And last, after standing the table back up, I got these leaves that fold down. I'm taking the knife with a towel wrapped around it, and I'm going over this joint area carefully with the knife and towel to get all the grease and junk out of there. So last, I just want to show you what comes off of these oven racks after soaking them in bleach and water for 24 hours. It looks like a rust, but I am not sure what that is. I don't know if it's an adhesive or what, but it often is forming at the joints. I've seen this also in different metal baking pans. After soaking them for 1 day, you'll see these coming out of the joints. And this is the bucket that I soaked it in. So it got off a lot of material that didn't even appear to be on the racks. You are going to want to thoroughly clean the dishwasher. So locate the fuse and turn the dishwasher off at the fuse box. If you take out the bottom rack, you'll see this water propeller thing. On this model, it unhooks. You pull both of the hooks out, and then this pops out. Then this basket filter comes out next. It has a handle, you just pull it right out. It catches the bigger material. Then this is the tube that holds the propeller. And you just twist it, and then it pops right out real easy. Then you can take out the lower filter basket, and the whole thing comes out like a unit. So you want to take these things, and like everything else, you decontaminate it with bleach. Put in about 2 cups of bleach. Then take off the top water propeller the same way. The top part snaps off. This pops up and then unhooks on the other side. You put one side underneath the rack at a time, and then it drops down. So like anything else that is metal, plastic, you want to use the CLR solution on it and just spray the whole inside of the dishwasher. Take the racks and put them in a container filled with bleach and water. Make sure you get the CLR solution into every part of the dishwasher. You're going to want to remove the dishwasher. So look for the brackets and unscrew them. I have 2 brackets here. They're just screwed into the cabinet. Kind of pull the brackets down a little bit, and then the dishwasher slides forward. You just want to be real careful as you slide it forward of the electrical cord. You want to make sure that you don't yank it out, because then you may need to hire an electrician to wire it back up. So just be real careful as you pull the dishwasher out. There should be enough slack to pull it forward. Just keep an eye on the electrical cord and the hoses as you pull it forward. The exhaust hose and the hose that brings the water to the dishwasher. If there is a fabric insulator pad on the top of the dishwasher, I would recommend throwing that out. I think it's just to insulate it for whatever reason, and I do not think it's necessary, especially if you have mold in the house. So spray the dishwasher with a good amount of the solution. I would not spray the bottom of the dishwasher where all the electrical components are, where all the wires are. Because what will happen is you'll get these things wet, and obviously the electrical equipment will either malfunction or it'll just break down. So don't spray the solution directly onto the electrical components found on the bottom of the dishwasher. I think most of the mold will be near sources of light. I would, however, focus on cleaning the hoses that bring the water in and out of the dishwasher. I would spray those and then wipe those down carefully, but I would not worry too much about the bottom of the dishwasher. At a later time, if you see black mold, you could turn off the fuse, spray the solution onto a cloth, and try to wipe down the things by hand. Keeping an eye on the electrical cord, you want to turn the dishwasher so that you could spray the back. Once the dishwasher is out of the cupboard space, you want to take the ammonia solution that is best for wood, and you want to spray the inside of the cabinet and the drywall with the ammonia solution. And then, like everything else, go back later and wipe that area down. After the dishwasher has begun to dry, go ahead and spray it down with the CLR solution again, and then wipe everything down. So the same as when you remove the dishwasher, you want to watch the electrical cord as you push it back into the cabinet space. You want to make sure the electrical cord and the hoses go back in evenly and do not get tangled or pulled out of place. And then the filters and the water propeller could be installed the same way you removed them. First the larger filter, then the tube, then the basket filter, and then the water propeller. To install the top one, it goes up from underneath and put them one side at a time. One side hooks in and the other one should snap in. And then the water funnel should go right on top. Alright, next we are going to clean the refrigerator. So when you're cleaning your kitchen, you can just go ahead and clean the outside of the refrigerator, and I will explain that first. However, when you go back to do a more thorough cleaning of your house, you are going to want to clean the inside of your refrigerator as well. So first I'll talk about cleaning the outside, and then I will explain how to clean the inside of the fridge. You're going to want to pull the refrigerator out so that you can clean every side to it with the CLR solution. Make sure you unplug it and then spray the refrigerator. Do not ignore areas like the ice and water dispenser. If you look underneath it, you may find mold growing inside of it, more toward the top. Here's an old video I took when I first started finding the mold in the house of the ice dispenser. As you can see, it's all in these parts up here. I ended up having to remove all this stuff in order to get it out. There was so much mold up there. But if you can't do that, continue to use the CLR spray and do your best using instruments to try to clean up there. And just spray it down with the CLR as often as you can until you see no more black mold present. You want to run the towel down the grooves of the door along the rubber gasket. I found a lot of mold in that area. You could use a Q-tip to get inside the bolt hole here, and then just leave some solution there to kill the remaining mold. You want to run the towel down the grooves of the door along the rubber gasket. I found a lot of mold in that area. You want to make sure to clean the underside of the fridge. You want to spray the CLR on the towel and then run it underneath the fridge on every side. I would recommend removing the front vent cover and just putting that in a container filled with bleach and water. And then carefully spraying the metal frame and then later wiping it down with the towel. Much like the dishwasher, you want to avoid spraying the solution onto the electrical components and the wires. But something like this, you will want to spray the solution onto a towel and then carefully clean it off. Oftentimes, this part of the refrigerator where the motor is covered up with a panel. In my case, it wasn't. So I just very carefully used the CLR solution, sprayed it on a towel, and then wiped down what I could. Make sure you clean off both the power cord and any hoses that will bring water to the ice maker. While you have the refrigerator pulled out of the space, switch over to the ammonia solution and spray down that area. Give the ammonia solution a chance to work, and then later go back and spray it again, and then wipe that area down. Alright, like I said at the beginning of this, you are going to want to return to clean the inside of your fridge after you get done with the rest of your house. Cleaning every room in your house takes priority. And then, as you do a more thorough cleaning of the house, you are going to want to clean the inside of your refrigerator, and I will explain how to do that. The first thing you want to do is unplug the refrigerator, because it will be a good idea to clean the freezer at the same time. So you need any ice buildup in the freezer to melt. So it's the perfect time to unplug the refrigerator. And as you are cleaning out the refrigerator part, the freezer could thaw out. That way you could spray down your food products one at a time with the ammonia solution and then place it on the towel to dry. Once you have emptied out the entire refrigerator, many of the shelves would just lift off. When you go to remove the shelves in your refrigerator, be careful because often they are glass and the glass comes out. As you can see, this glass piece comes out of the plastic shelf. So you may want to remove the drawers first and then unhook the metal shelf that is just held in by prongs that fit into the rectangular spaces on those metal bars on the back of your fridge. They'll just lift off. So what you could do is either soak whatever you can in bleach and water, or as you're taking everything out, you want to spray it down with the CLR solution and then put it on the tarp to dry. Then spray down the entire inside of the refrigerator, and then later, after it's disinfected, go back and spray and then wipe it down. You want to use a towel wrapped around a knife to get into any spaces, grooves, to clean the vents. And what is extremely important is to clean this rubber gasket around the doors. You do not want to neglect that. I found a lot of mold behind the rubber gasket that lined the door. After you go back and spray and wipe down your drawers, you can begin to put everything back into the refrigerator. Sometimes it's easier to leave the drawers out and just put in the metal shelf frames first, hooking them into the rectangular notches in the back of your fridge. Once you've lined everything up, you can put the plastic drawers back into place. Then, switching back over to the ammonia solution, you want to spray down your food products a second time and then wipe them off and put them back in your fridge. By then, all the ice should have thawed out in your freezer. You want to clean the freezer the same way, taking out your products, spraying it down with the ammonia solution, and then putting it on the towel to dry. Once you have cleaned the freezer with the CLR solution, spray your food products with the ammonia solution and then wipe them off and then put it back into your freezer.